Find stillness in this moment as we explore how Zen begins not with sound, but with the quiet before any thought arises. This pure silence is where true transformation starts. Discover the profound peace that comes when we simply pause, letting go of the need to be anywhere else. Share in the comments, what time is it where you are? Where are you sitting? And what one thing are you reflecting on right now? Now, let us return to that silent space. Imagine the quiet before a single thought forms, the deep stillness that exists beneath the surface of your everyday awareness. This is not an empty void, but the natural, vibrant ground of your being, the silent space where everything begins. It is the calm before the wave, the clear sky before the cloud. In this moment, there is no need to do anything, no need to fix anything. You simply are, fully present in the quiet space between the breaths. Notice how the air fills your lungs, then gently leaves. And in that gentle pause before the next breath, there is a natural quiet. This is the essential starting point for Zen, the foundation upon which all practice rests. Silence here is not the absence of sound, but the presence of awareness itself. It is the awareness that exists before the mind begins to label, to judge, or to create stories about what is happening. Think of a still pond on a calm morning, reflecting the sky without a single ripple. The pond is not trying to be still, it simply is still when undisturbed. Your awareness is like that pond, naturally clear and undisturbed when you return to that quiet space. You don't need to create silence, you simply need to notice it, to return to it as often as you remember. In the Zen tradition, this noticing is the practice. It is not about stopping thoughts, but about recognizing the space between them. The space where awareness is already present. When the mind is busy, the silence is still there, waiting to be noticed. It is the ground from which all thoughts arise and to which they return. So begin simply. Find a comfortable seat, close your eyes gently, or soften your gaze downward. Set a timer for 2 minutes. Breathe naturally, without forcing it. As you breathe in, feel the air entering, and as you breathe out, feel the release. Then, in that quiet pause between the out-breath and the next in-breath, notice the space. Do not search for it. Simply rest in the quiet that is already there. Feel the stillness, the calm awareness, the deep peace that has always been beneath the surface of your thoughts. If thoughts arise, which they will, do not follow them. Gently return to the quiet space between the breaths, like a bird returning to its nest. This is not a task to be mastered, but a gentle return to what is already true. This practice is not about achieving a special state. It is about recognizing the natural state of your mind. It is a kind of homecoming in that 2 minutes of silent awareness. You are reconnecting with the very essence of your being, the silent awareness that is always present, even when you're unaware of it. You are not adding something new, you are simply remembering what has always been there, like remembering the taste of water when you're thirsty. The quiet space is not something you must find, it is what you are already resting within, if only you pause to notice. As you sit in this quiet space, feel the gentle warmth of the present moment, the simple, unchanging peace that is always available. This silence is not separate from you. It is the very fabric of your awareness. It is the space where thoughts arise, but it is also the space that holds them without clinging. When you return to this silence, you are returning to the source of your own clarity and calm. This foundational silence naturally extends to your everyday movements. When you rise from your seat, step gently onto the floor. The silence you have touched remains. It is not something you leave behind, it is the quiet presence that flows with you through the day, coloring every action with a subtle calm. The next step in this journey is to carry this quiet space into your ordinary life, to move through the world with the same gentle awareness that was present in your silent moment. This is how silence becomes the living foundation of your entire practice. Not just a quiet moment in a chair, but the very ground of your being as you walk, as you speak, as you simply live. The silence we begin with is not an empty void, but the very ground of your being, already present and unchanging. It is the space before the first thought stirs, the quiet awareness that holds all things without effort. This foundational silence is not something you must chase or create. It is simply the natural state of your mind, as inherent as your own breath. Now, as you move through the ordinary moments of your day, this silence doesn't vanish. It flows into your actions, transforming the mundane into the sacred. When you wash a dish, for instance, the silence isn't lost. It becomes the quiet center from which you notice the water's gentle warmth on your skin, the soft sigh of the tap, the faint, soapy scent rising in the air. You don't rush to the next task. You simply are present with the coolness of the water, the sound of it flowing, the smooth curve of the bowl beneath your fingers. This is mindfulness, not as a separate practice, but as the natural way of being when you stop pushing and simply allow the moment to be as it is. Every action, pouring tea, walking to the mailbox, even the quiet act of breathing becomes a meditation when you bring your full attention to the sensory details. Notice the texture of the sponge against your palm, the way light falls on the wet surface of a cup, the subtle shift in sound as the water changes from a trickle to a stream. There is no need to make it special, it simply is. You are not trying to become mindful, you are remembering what you already are, a presence that is always here, right now. This awareness is not about achieving some perfect state. It is about returning to the simple truth of what is happening, right here, right now. As you wash the dishes, feel the water's temperature, hear its sound. See the bubbles form and fade. This is where Zen practice lives. It is not found in a quiet room alone, but in the heart of your daily life, in the very act of being fully present with what you are doing. The mind may still chatter with thoughts of the past or future, but the awareness that notices these thoughts is the same quiet space that was always there. You don't need to stop the thoughts. You simply notice them passing like clouds across the sky of your awareness, while the water continues to flow and your hands continue their work. This is the gentle revolution of Zen, seeing that the sacred is not hidden in some distant place or time, but woven into the fabric of ordinary life, waiting only to be noticed. As you carry this awareness into your next task, notice how the thoughts arise and pass, like ripples on a still pond, without disturbing the deep calm that holds them. This awareness of daily actions reveals how thoughts arise and pass. The silence we began with remains the quiet ground beneath all experience. It is not something we build, but the very space where awareness naturally rests. Now, as we turn our attention gently inward, we find the breath becomes our most immediate anchor to this present moment. It is always here, moving within us, a natural rhythm as constant as the earth beneath our feet. We do not need to change it, force it, or make it perfect. Simply notice the air as it flows in through your nostrils, cool and clear, and out again, warm and soft. Feel the subtle rise and fall of your chest or abdomen. This sensation is your bridge back to the stillness within. Imagine a gardener tending plants in the morning mist. Their hands move with care, but their attention is not caught in the thoughts of the day ahead. They feel the earth beneath their fingers, the gentle breeze on their skin, and the steady rhythm of their own breathing. They are not trying to control the wind or the growth of the plants. They simply are present, aware, and at ease. This is the natural state of awareness we return to through the breath. The breath is not an object to hold tightly, but a river flowing through the landscape of our being. Observe its natural pace without judgment. If it is slow, let it be slow. If it is quick, let it be quick. There is no need to adjust it. Simply rest your attention on the sensation itself, the coolness at the nostrils, the slight expansion in the body, the quiet release as the breath leaves. This is not a task to complete, but a gentle invitation to be exactly where you are. For the next 3 minutes, let this be your only practice. Sit comfortably, allowing your body to settle. Close your eyes softly if it feels right, or soften your gaze downward. Bring your full attention to the simple act of breathing. Notice the air moving in, the space between breaths, the air moving out. When thoughts arise, as they naturally will, do not chase them or push them away. Gently return to the feeling of breath. Let thoughts pass like clouds across a clear sky, without needing to name them or follow their story. Your anchor is always the breath, the steady pulse of presence in this very moment. There is no need to hurry, no need to achieve anything. Simply be aware of the breath as it is, without adding anything to it. This quiet observation is not emptying the mind, but clearing the space so that awareness can be seen clearly. In this simple practice, we discover that stillness is not found by forcing silence, but by resting within the natural flow of life itself. The breath, like the silence we began with, is already present, already whole. It requires no effort to be there. It simply is. As you sit with this awareness, feel how the quiet space between breaths becomes your home. Feel how the gentle rhythm of breathing dissolves the sense of separation between you and the world. You're not trying to reach a state of calm. You are simply recognizing the calm that has always been here, beneath the surface of thought. This quiet observation prepares us to meet the next moment with the same gentle clarity. It is the quiet space between thoughts, the stillness within the movement, that allows us to see thoughts not as separate events to be controlled, but as natural movements in the field of awareness. This is the foundation upon which true understanding grows. Zen begins with silence and ends with silence. This profound truth is not a distant ideal, but the very ground beneath our feet, already present in the quiet space between thoughts. We do not need to create silence. We simply need to remember it. As we settle into our practice, the natural rhythm of awareness awakens within us, like a still pond reflecting the sky without effort. This is the foundation we honor now. The core practice is returning to the present moment without judgment. It is not about emptying the mind or forcing calm, but gently noticing what is here, exactly as it is. When sounds arise, the distant hum of traffic, the rustle of leaves, the soft sigh of your own breath, observe them without naming them good or bad. Do not label the sound as pleasant or irritating. Simply let it be a sound, a passing event in the field of awareness. This is the essence of simple awareness, meeting life as it unfolds, without the weight of preference. Imagine a monk sitting under an ancient tree during a gentle rain. The raindrops fall softly on the leaves, creating a quiet melody. He does not think, "This rain is peaceful," or "This rain is annoying." He simply hears the sound, feels its rhythm in the air, and remains present with it. The rain continues. The tree stands, and the monk is neither disturbed nor distracted. His awareness is like the sky, vast, open, and undisturbed by the clouds that pass through it. This is the example we carry into our own moments. To practice this, find a quiet space. Sit comfortably, allowing your body to settle. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. For 5 minutes, simply notice the sounds around you. Hear the hum of the world without attaching meaning. If a car passes, notice the sound as a sound, not as noise. If silence feels present, notice that too. Without thinking, silence is good. Let thoughts arise like clouds, but do not follow them. Return gently to the sound, the breath, the quiet space within. This is not about achieving stillness. Yeah. beneath the surface of our busy minds. This simple awareness is not a technique to master, but a natural state we are rediscovering. It requires no special skill, only a willingness to be present with what is. On the first day, you may find your attention wandering often. That is perfectly natural. Each time you notice you have drifted, simply return to the sound, the breath, the feeling of sitting. There is no need to judge yourself for wandering. The practice is the gentle return, not the absence of wandering. As you sit, feel the quiet acceptance in your body. Notice how the air moves through your nostrils, how the sound of a bird outside shifts and fades. There is no need to fix anything, no need to make the moment better. Simply be with it as it is. This is how silence becomes your companion, not as an absence, but as a full presence. The space between sounds, the quiet between thoughts, is where you meet yourself, exactly as you are. This simple awareness becomes the bedrock for deeper work with thoughts. When we practice noticing sounds without judgment, we learn to meet thoughts with the same gentle attention. We see them not as enemies to be fought, but as passing events in the open sky of awareness. The silence we begin with is the silence we end with, and in between, we discover that silence is not something we wait for. It is the very ground of our being, already here, always. This quiet space we've found together, this deep calm within the natural rhythm of the breath, is the ground from which all observation arises. It is not a place we build, but the silence already present beneath the surface of all experience. Now, as we gently turn our attention to the mind itself, we meet thoughts not as obstacles to be pushed away, but as natural events within this spacious awareness. Thoughts arise, as they always do, like clouds drifting across the vast sky of your being. They are not your enemy, nor are they uniquely yours. There is no need to grasp them as mine or to judge them as bad or good. The mind is simply doing what minds do, thinking. Our practice is not to stop the clouds, but to notice their passing without becoming lost within their shapes. When a thought arises, perhaps a memory, a worry, a plan, instead of following it down the path of identification or reaction, simply notice its presence. Feel the subtle shift, the flicker of mental activity. Then, with the quietest possible breath, gently say to yourself, thinking, not I'm thinking or this thought is wrong, but simply thinking. This small, silent acknowledgement creates a moment of space. It is not an effort to control the thought, but a gentle return to the anchor of your breath. The breath is always here, steady and calm, a constant point of reference in the ever-changing weather of the mind. You notice the thought. You label it softly as thinking, and then you gently return to the quiet rhythm of your breath. The thought may linger, it may return. But each time you gently say thinking and return to the breath, you strengthen the awareness that is the sky, not the cloud. You are not the thought. You are the awareness observing the thought. This simple practice dissolves the illusion that thoughts define you or that you must be constantly engaged with them. There is a profound relief in this non-attachment. It is not indifference, but a deep, quiet acceptance that thoughts are merely passing phenomena, like clouds moving through the clear sky of your awareness. You are not the storm, you are the vast, untroubled sky holding the storm. This observation, practiced again and again, becomes a natural state of being. It is not about achieving a thoughtless mind, but about meeting each thought with the same gentle, open attention you gave to the sound of the wind or the feeling of the breath. Each time you silently say thinking and return to your breath, you are reaffirming that silence, the natural ground of awareness that was present before the thought arose and remains after it passes. You are simply meeting life as it is, moment by moment, without adding the burden of judgment. This is the heart of working with the mind, to see thoughts not as problems to solve, but as the natural movement within the boundless space of your own being. You are not struggling with your thoughts. You are resting within the awareness that holds them. This quiet recognition, this gentle return, is where true peace and clarity arise. It is not something you create. It is the natural state of mind when you stop fighting what is already here. This simple, non-judgmental observation of thoughts, this noticing without the weight of mine or bad, naturally leads us to understand how thoughts pass like clouds across the sky of our awareness. In the quiet space already present beneath the surface of every sound and sensation, we find the natural ground of awareness. This silence is not empty, but full of spaciousness, the very fabric of our being. Now, as we turn to the mind, we notice how thoughts arise like ripples on a still pond, seeming real, yet dissolving as quickly as they form. They are not solid things to hold on to, but passing phenomena, like clouds drifting across an unchanging sky. The effort to grasp them, to follow their story, only creates a storm within that stillness. This is the heart of non-attachment, recognizing that thoughts have no substance. They simply arise and dissolve in the clear awareness that remains. There is no need to chase them, to judge them, or to believe them. They are simply weather in the mind's sky. Imagine sitting quietly, perhaps on a bench in a park. A thought about an upcoming meeting arises. Instead of immediately stepping into its narrative, you notice it like a cloud passing by. You see it clearly, without pulling it closer, without giving it a name or a story. You simply observe its shape and color as it moves, knowing it will not stay. The cloud is not the sky. It is merely a temporary pattern within the vast, clear space. You do not need to stop the cloud from passing, nor do you need to chase it. You rest in the awareness that holds it all, undisturbed. This is the gentle practice of watching thoughts flow without becoming the river. It is not about stopping thoughts, but about releasing the tight grip of the mind that tries to control them. You breathe, and the sky remains clear. Now, as you notice a thought arise in your own mind, try this. Let it be a cloud. See it as it forms, move with it, and let it pass without following its path. Feel the space around it, the quiet stillness beneath it. There is no need to engage, to argue, or to give it more weight. Simply observe its movement within the openness of your awareness. This is not an effort to be perfect, it is a soft return, again and again, to the clear sky of presence. When the thought dissolves, the sky is still there, untouched. You may find yourself caught in the story once more, and that is perfectly okay. Gently, without judgment, you return to the observation. Each time, the grip loosens a little. The sense of being defined by the thought fades, and the mind becomes lighter, more spacious. The practice is not to create a thought-free mind, but to allow the mind to be as it naturally is, without resistance. This quiet observation, this simple act of watching thoughts like clouds without grasping, is where the deep release begins. It is the gentle turning away from the endless noise of mental commentary, the soft letting go of the need to understand or fix every passing thought. As we practice this, we discover that the mental noise we thought was constant is actually just a series of temporary clouds, and beneath them, the clear sky of our true nature remains perfectly still. This non-attachment to thoughts allows us to release mental noise more deeply, revealing the profound peace that has always been here. Waiting in the silence, the mind, freed from the effort to control its own weather, finds rest in the vast, clear sky of awareness itself. Zen begins with silence and ends with silence. This profound truth is not merely a starting point, but the very essence of our practice. In the quiet space before thought arises, we find the unchanging ground of awareness. It is here, in this spacious silence, that we discover the freedom to meet each moment as it is, without the heavy burden of clinging. Thoughts will come, as they always do, like leaves drifting on a stream. But the practice of non-attachment is not about stopping the stream. It is about learning to watch the leaves float by without trying to hold them in our hands or chase them downstream. Freedom comes from not clinging to any thought or feeling, from releasing the need to analyze, judge, or react immediately to the passing scene of the mind. Imagine sitting quietly, perhaps in the gentle rhythm of your breath. A thought arises, sharp and insistent. That argument yesterday was so unfair. The old habit might pull you into replaying it, analyzing who was right, feeling the sting of injustice all over again. But today, You notice the thought without letting it pull you under. You observe it with the same calm curiosity you might use to watch a bird land on a branch. There is no need to label it as good or bad, true or false. Instead, with a soft, unhurried intention, you gently say to yourself, "Let go," not forcefully, not with resistance, but with a quiet release, like opening your hand to let a feather fall. As you say "let go," you return your attention to the simple, steady presence of your breath, the feeling of your body sitting, the quiet hum of the room. The thought dissolves, not because it was wrong, but because you stopped giving it your energy. It was never yours to hold on to in the first place. This practice is not about emptying the mind of all content. It is about changing our relationship to what arises. When a thought appears, we don't chase it, we don't fight it. We simply acknowledge its presence within the spacious awareness and choose to release our grip. It is the quiet act of stepping back from the story and returning to the clear sky of now. The need to analyze or react immediately is the root of our suffering. It is the moment we forget the silence and become lost in the thought. By saying "let go" and returning to the present moment, we reclaim our peace. We remember that we are not the thought. We are the awareness that holds the thought. This simple shift, repeated again and again, dissolves the illusion that thoughts define our being. It is the deepest relief, the profound calm that comes from knowing you are not the storm, but the vast, calm space within which the storm moves. In this moment of quiet release, you feel the lightness of unburdening. The tightness in your chest eases. The mind, which felt like a cage of endless what-ifs, opens into the spaciousness of the present. You realize that every thought, no matter how persistent, is temporary, like a ripple on a still pond. The pond itself remains undisturbed. Your awareness is the still pond. The practice of let go is not a single act, but a gentle return, moment after moment, to this fundamental truth. It is the practice of meeting life as it unfolds, without adding the extra weight of our reactions. This is how we cultivate true freedom, not by controlling the mind, but by recognizing the boundless freedom that is already here, within the silence. This practice of non-attachment extends to our daily routines. It is not confined to the cushion. It flows into the way we wash the dishes, walk to the bus, or listen to a colleague. The moment a thought arises about the task ahead, the worry about a meeting, or the memory of something said, we can gently say, "Let go," and return to the simple act of washing the dish, the feeling of the pavement under our feet, or the sound of the voice speaking. This is the seamless integration of mindfulness into the fabric of ordinary life, where every moment becomes a practice of returning to the silence that is our true home. In the quiet space between breaths, where thought has settled like dust in still air, we find a new beginning. This is not the silence of emptiness, but the deep, clear space where awareness holds all things without needing to hold them. We move now not as separate from that stillness, but as its living expression. The path of mindful movement begins not with grand gestures, but with the simple, ordinary act of walking. Feel the ground beneath your feet, not as a surface to cross, but as a presence to be known. Each step is a moment of return to the present, a gentle acknowledgement of the body in motion. As you lift your foot, notice the subtle shift of weight, the release of tension, the quiet connection with the earth. Place your foot down, feeling the soft pressure, the slight give, the grounding sensation. There is no rush, only the unfolding of each movement, each sensation held with quiet attention. The mind, so often chasing the past or future, finds its anchor in the physical reality of the step itself. You're not trying to stop thinking, you are simply noticing the thoughts as they arise, like leaves floating on the surface of a calm pond, while your awareness remains the deep, undisturbed water beneath. This is the essence of stillness within movement. It is not the absence of motion, but the presence of awareness within it. You are walking, yet the walk itself becomes the stillness. The body moves, the mind observes, and the separation between the two dissolves into a single, clear moment. This is the practice, to walk not as a means to an end, but as a complete experience in itself. When you next walk to the kitchen, to the bus stop, or simply around your room, slow down. Feel the lift, the swing, the placement. Notice the subtle changes in pressure, the rhythm of your breath syncing with your steps. Do not judge the pace. Do not wish for it to be faster or slower. Simply be with the sensation of moving, of being alive in the body, right now. This gentle attention to the simple act of walking is not a distraction from life. It is life itself, revealed in its most ordinary yet profound expression. It is the quiet practice of remembering who you are in the midst of doing. The burden of seeking meaning in every step, the anxiety of arriving quickly, melts away when you simply feel the step. The mind, released from the need to control or rush, settles into a natural calm. You are not becoming something else. You are simply being here, fully present in the movement. This mindful movement, this quiet awareness carried within the body's action, prepares the ground. It softens the mind, dissolves the illusion of separation between action and stillness, between doing and being. It is the gentle preparation for the silent ritual of tea ceremony, where every gesture, every moment of stillness within the act is a continuation of this same deep, quiet awareness. The path continues, step by step, in the quiet knowing that the silence we began with is the silence we walk within. The stillness before the first drop of water hits the kettle is where Zen begins. It is not emptiness, but a deep listening, a quieting of the inner noise so that the world can speak in its own voice. This is the ground from which our ritual of presence grows. In the silent space between thoughts, we find the true beginning of awareness. It is here, in the deliberate pause before action, that we step fully into the present moment, free from the pull of past or future. The tea ceremony, practiced in silence, transforms the ordinary act of preparation into a profound meditation. Each movement becomes a mindful gesture, not a task to be completed, but a way of being fully present. Watch the water as it begins to rise. Hear the soft hiss as it gathers heat, a sound so subtle it requires complete attention. Feel the cool weight of the ceramic bowl in your hands, the gentle resistance of the bamboo whisk against the water. Smell the earthy scent of the tea leaves as they are measured, a fragrance that carries the quiet essence of the mountain where they grew. There is no need to think about the next step, only to be with this one. The sound of water, the scent of leaves, the texture of the bowl, these are not distractions, but anchors pulling you deeper into the now. The mind, so often a busy marketplace of thoughts, settles into the simple rhythm of the present action. The preparation of tea is not about making a drink. It is about making space for silence to be heard. This is the practice. Prepare your tea slowly, without rushing. Let the water heat. Let your breath settle. Feel the weight of the leaves as you lift them. Notice the precise angle of the pour, the way the water meets the leaves. Do not think about the tea you will drink later or the task waiting after. Be only with the sound of the water, the scent of the leaves, the feeling of the bowl. When the mind wanders, as it naturally will, gently return to the sensation of the water's heat, the smell of the leaves, the sound of the whisk. This is not concentration, but a gentle, persistent return to the sensory reality of this moment. It is the practice of presence in the smallest gesture, the most ordinary action. As you sit with your cup, feeling its warmth, hearing the silence around you, you realize this stillness is not separate from the world. It is the ground from which all experience arises. The silence you cultivate in the tea room is the same silence that can be found in the space between words, in the space where true listening happens. This quiet awareness, deepened through the ritual of preparation, naturally extends to how we listen in conversation. It is the space where words are received, not just heard, where the other person's presence is truly met, without the immediate need to respond or judge. The silence practiced in the tea ceremony becomes the silence we bring into the heart of every interaction. A deep listening that honors the unspoken truth in every moment. This is the seamless flow from ritual to relationship, from the quiet cup to the quiet heart. The stillness cultivated in mindful walking now flows into the space between words. As you move through the world with feet firmly on the earth, The quiet that settles within you becomes the ground for true connection. This is the silence that begins and ends all things. The deep quiet before the first word is spoken. The space where presence truly lives. In conversation, this silence is not empty. It is the fertile field where understanding takes root. We often mistake the noise of our own thoughts for listening, planning our reply while the other speaks, missing the very essence of their words. True listening happens not in the words themselves, but in the quiet space between them. It is the pause where the breath catches, where the unspoken feeling lingers, where the heart truly hears. To hear without planning your response is to step out of the river of your own mind and enter the river of another's presence. It requires no effort, only a gentle turning inward to receive what is offered. Consider the tea ceremony, a ritual where silence is as vital as the hot water. Two people sit facing each other, the steam rising from the bowl. The host pours the tea with slow, deliberate grace. The guest receives it with hands held gently, eyes meeting briefly, then lowering to the bowl. There is no rush, no need to fill the quiet. In that space between the pouring and the first sip, between the words of thanks and the next movement, the silence speaks. It holds the respect, the shared moment, the unspoken acknowledgement of being together in this ordinary act. The sound of the water, the rustle of fabric, the soft clink of the bowl, these are the subtle notes in the silence, not the absence of sound. The guest is fully present in the silence, not waiting to speak, but receiving the whole moment. This is the ritual of presence in conversation, the deep listening that allows the other to be truly seen without the interference of our own voice. So, in your next ordinary conversation, practice this simple ritual. Choose one moment, perhaps when a friend shares something small, and commit to listening fully for 30 seconds without speaking. Feel the space between their words. Notice the pause where their meaning deepens. Let your mind quiet the urge to respond, to agree, to correct. Simply be the ground for their words to land. Feel the silence between your breaths. Hear the subtle tone in their voice, the shift in their eyes. In that 30 seconds, you are not merely hearing, you are meeting. You are dissolving the barrier of your own thoughts to enter the shared space of their experience. This practice is not about being perfect. It is about the gentle return to the silence, again and again. As the mind drifts back to planning its reply, each time you choose to sit in the quiet space, you strengthen your ability to be fully present, to truly connect. This mindful listening reveals deeper connections through silence. It is the quiet hum beneath the surface of all interaction, the foundation of empathy that needs no words. When we stop filling the space with our own voice, we create room for the other to be heard, to be known, to be truly present with us. The silence between words becomes a bridge, not a barrier. It is the space where the heart recognizes the heart. As you step into the next conversation, remember the stillness of the walking path, the quiet of the tea bowl. Carry that silence within you and let it be the ground for every word that follows. This mindful listening reveals deeper connections through silence. Imagine the quiet before you lift a cup of tea. Your hands are still, yet your breath moves gently within you. This is the heart of stillness in movement. It is not the absence of motion, but the awareness that flows through every motion. When you pour water, when you walk, when you simply breathe, the stillness is the calm center within the action, not the pause before it. True presence is not found in stopping the world, but in moving with the rhythm of your breath, letting each action become a gentle wave on the surface of deep water. In Zen practice, we often use simple rituals to anchor this awareness. Picture yourself preparing tea. The kettle hums softly. You lift the pot, feeling the weight of the water, the smooth curve of the handle beneath your fingers. As you pour, you notice the steam rising, the sound of water meeting leaves in the cup. Your breath moves in and out, a quiet pulse you feel in your chest. You do not hurry the pour, you move with the breath, not against it. The tea leaves swirl gently, and in that swirl, you are fully here. The movement is not separate from the stillness. It is the stillness made visible. This is not about perfection, but about returning again and again to the calm within the action. You're not trying to be still while pouring. You are pouring with stillness. This is the practice. It is not reserved for special moments, but woven into the ordinary. The next time you wash your hands, feel the water flow over your skin. Notice the sound of the tap, the warmth, the movement of your fingers. Let the breath guide the motion, so that washing becomes a quiet ritual of presence. When you open a door, feel the resistance, the smooth glide, and the release, all while your breath moves steadily. The task itself becomes the practice, the inner calm, the constant companion. You are not seeking silence to escape the motion, but discovering silence within the very flow of motion. This is how silence deepens, not by holding your breath, but by breathing through every action, feeling the calm beneath the surface of all doing. As you move through your day, notice how this stillness in motion changes your experience. A step on the pavement, a turn of the head, a word spoken, each becomes a moment of quiet awareness, not a distraction from stillness, but its living expression. You begin to see that the movement itself is not the obstacle. The obstacle was always the thought that movement must be separate from calm. Now, the ordinary becomes sacred, not because it is quiet, but because you are fully present within it. This stillness in movement leads us to notice impermanence in quiet moments. Zen begins with silence and ends with silence. This chapter invites you to discover that silence is not empty space, but the very ground of being, present even within the flow of daily life. As we move beyond the sacred space between words, we step into the living practice of presence woven into ordinary moments. True connection, as we learned, blooms in stillness, not in the noise of thought. Now, we learn that stillness is awareness within movement, not absence of motion. It is the gentle calm that holds each action as it happens. This is the heart of ritual, transforming the ordinary into the sacred by meeting each moment with full attention. Consider the simple act of making coffee. Instead of rushing through it, as many of us do, let us practice with mindful intention. Feel the weight of the mug in your hands, its smooth ceramic surface cool at first, then warming with your touch. Hear the soft hiss of water pouring, the gentle gurgle as it meets the grounds. Notice the rich, earthy scent rising in the steam, a fragrant promise filling the air. Watch the deep brown liquid flow, creating a slow, steady stream into the cup. Feel the heat radiating from the mug as you lift it, the comforting warmth spreading through your palms. This is not about making perfect coffee. It is about being fully present for the warmth, the sound, the scent, the simple act of pouring. In that moment, the ritual of making coffee becomes a bridge to silence, a way to anchor yourself in the now, where the mind is not chasing the past or the future, but resting completely in the sensory reality of this very action. This practice is not reserved for special moments. It is for the grind of the coffee, the brush of the teeth, the walk to the door, the quiet sip of tea. It is about bringing the same gentle awareness to the tasks that shape our days. When you set the table, feel the smoothness of the plate. When you wash your hands, notice the temperature of the water, the sound of it flowing. When you walk, feel the contact of your feet with the ground, the rhythm of your breath. Each action, however small, becomes a moment of presence, a small return to silence. There is no need to force stillness. It arises naturally when we stop trying to be somewhere else and simply meet what is happening right here, right now. The ritual is the doorway, and presence is the space we step into. As you practice this, you may notice how easily the mind wanders, pulling you into the past or the future. That is the nature of thought. The practice is not to stop thoughts, but to gently return to the sensory anchor, the warmth, the sound, the feeling each time you notice you have drifted. This is not about perfection, but about the simple, profound act of returning again and again. It is the quiet courage of meeting life exactly as it is, without adding the burden of judgment. In this way, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Not because of the action itself, but because of the awareness that fills it. This mindfulness of routine reveals the impermanence of all things. The warmth of the mug cools, the coffee brews and fades, the moment passes into the next. In this gentle awareness, we see not just the movement of the coffee, but the movement of life itself, flowing through each ordinary act. The ritual of presence teaches us that silence is not something we find apart from life. It is the deep, calm center that holds all of life, even as it changes. It is the quiet ground beneath the dance of the day. In the quiet space between breaths, where sound dissolves and movement slows, we find the truest mirror of life. This is where silence begins to speak, not with words, but with the gentle unfolding of what is. Notice how the coolness of the air against your skin shifts as a breeze passes, how the light in the room softens as the sun moves across the window. Silence reveals how everything changes moment by moment, not as a sudden storm, but as a quiet, constant flow. It is in this stillness that we see the nature of all things. They arise, they change, and they fade, like ripples on water or leaves on a stream. This is not a concept to be understood intellectually, but a truth felt in the quiet space of awareness. Consider a simple moment of tea. A monk pours hot water into a cup, watching the steam rise in delicate spirals. The steam is there, visible and warm, but it does not stay. It rises, thins, and vanishes into the air, leaving only the cup and the memory of its presence. The monk does not grasp for the steam, nor does he mourn its passing. He simply observes its brief dance, knowing it was never meant to stay. This is impermanence, not as a loss, but as the natural rhythm of existence. The warmth of the tea, the scent of the leaves, the sound of the pouring water, all are temporary, all are changing, even as we experience them. The monk's stillness allows the impermanence to be seen clearly, without resistance or attachment. Now, bring this quiet observation to your own practice. Sit quietly, not to force calm, but to notice what is already present. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your breath. Notice the sensation of your body resting on the cushion, the faint sound of distant birds, the cool air near your face. Then, allow thoughts to arise. A thought about an email, a worry about tomorrow, a memory of laughter. See how it appears, how it holds for a moment. And then, without chasing it or pushing it away, watch it soften and fade. It is not a thought to be controlled, but a wave in the ocean of awareness. Notice how a sensation of coolness on your arm might shift to warmth, how a sound might grow louder, then fade. All of it is moving, all of it is changing. And in this noticing, there is no need to hold on. This gentle noticing This simple practice of observing change without grasping is where release begins. When we see thoughts and sensations as temporary, like the steam or the ripples, we no longer cling to them as permanent truths. We stop fighting the flow of life, stop building stories around passing moments. The mental noise we often mistake for our true self, those persistent worries, judgments, and endless planning, simply loses its power when we see it for what it is, a fleeting pattern, not a fixed reality. The mind, when not caught in the illusion of permanence, naturally becomes lighter, more open, more spacious. It is not that the thoughts stop, but that we no longer feel the need to ride every wave. This understanding of impermanence, felt in the quiet space between breaths, is the quiet key to releasing mental patterns. It is not an effort, but a softening, a letting go that happens when we see clearly. The silence that began this chapter holds the answer, not in words, but in the simple, profound truth that all things change. And in that change, we find freedom. This gentle noticing naturally loosens the grip of mental noise, preparing the way for the deeper release to come. We begin where we left off, in the quiet space discovered through stillness within movement. That gentle awareness holding life's constant change is the foundation. Now, we notice how mental noise, the constant chatter of thought and worry, often obscures this very silence. It is not the silence itself, but the thick fog we create. A familiar hum of past regrets and future anxieties that makes the quiet presence feel distant. This noise is not reality, it is merely a pattern of mind, a habit of grasping and pushing away. To release it, we do not fight the noise. Instead, we gently return to the only place where true silence resides, the present moment, right here, right now. Consider a still stream on a quiet morning. The water flows, clear and calm, reflecting the sky. Then, a leaf drifts in, causing a small ripple. The ripples move outward, disturb the surface, but the water beneath remains fundamentally still. The ripples are the mental noise, thoughts arising, feelings stirring. The water's stillness is the silence beneath. We do not try to stop the leaf from falling or the ripples from forming. We simply notice the ripple, then, without judgment, return our attention to the calm water itself. That is the practice. When the mental noise arises, the persistent inner commentary, the anxious loop, the sudden memory, we do not chase it or cling to it. We take one deep, slow breath. Feel the air enter your nostrils. Fill your lungs and gently leave. That single breath is an anchor. It brings us back to the simple, unchanging rhythm of our own breath, the silent ground beneath the surface of thought. The noise may still be there, but we are no longer lost within it. We are simply aware of the breath, and in that awareness, the noise softens, like ripples fading on a calm surface. This is not about emptying the mind. It is about recognizing the difference between the noise and the space where the noise happens. The space is always there, silent and vast, even as thoughts dance across it. When you take that one breath, you are not forcing silence. You are stepping out of the story and into the quiet reality of this moment. The practice is simple, yet profound in its simplicity. It requires no special effort, only a gentle turning of attention inward, to the breath, to the feeling of being alive in this very breath. It is a soft whisper to yourself, I am here, now, breathing. The mental noise may return, and that is fine. Each time you return to your breath, you are gently releasing the grip of the noise, one breath at a time. You are not trying to become silent, you are remembering that silence is already here, waiting for you to notice it. This quiet return to breath is the doorway to deeper release. It is how we begin to see that the mental patterns we cling to are not solid, but as fleeting as the ripples on the stream. When the noise fades with that single breath, a space opens, a space where expectations, those heavy weights we carry about how things should be, begin to loosen their hold. Releasing mental noise allows us to drop expectations more easily. The quiet presence we find through this simple practice becomes the ground from which we can let go, not with struggle, but with the natural ease of a leaf falling into still water. As the gentle rhythm of your breath settles, notice the quiet space between thoughts. This stillness we've been cultivating is not empty, but full of possibility. Now, let us gently explore how expectations gently, yet firmly, block this fullness. Expectations are like invisible threads woven into the fabric of our awareness, pulling us toward a future that may never come. They create a subtle tension, a quiet anxiety about how things should unfold. We hold on to the image of what we believe is right, good, or necessary, and this holding tightens the mind, preventing us from truly seeing what is here, now. The moment we expect a certain sound, a certain feeling, a certain outcome, we step away from the present reality. We are not present with the sound itself, but with the idea of the sound we anticipated. This creates a barrier between us and the silence that is already here. Consider a single leaf clinging to a branch on a quiet morning. It does not expect to stay forever, nor does it fear falling. It simply is, in the fullness of its moment, held by the branch, moved by the wind, responding to the light. It does not struggle against the changing season. It simply releases when the time is right. There is no tension in its holding, no resistance in its letting go. This is the natural state of impermanence. The leaf does not think, I should not fall, or I must stay. It simply is as it is, without the burden of expectation. Our minds, however, often create a far more complex story around the falling leaf or around the unfolding of our own day. We imagine the moment before the leaf falls, or the moment after, and miss the quiet truth of the falling itself. So, in this very next breath, let us practice releasing that invisible thread. Notice any expectation that has quietly taken root within you, perhaps the expectation that this moment should feel peaceful, or that the next moment should bring relief, or that things should happen in a specific way. Feel the subtle tightness that comes with that should. Now, without judgment, simply allow it to soften. Let the expectation go, not by fighting it, but by gently acknowledging its presence and releasing it back into the vastness of the present moment. Do not force the silence. Simply stop holding on to the idea of what silence should be. Be with the breath. Be with the sound of the wind outside. Be with the quiet space within, without needing it to be anything other than exactly as it is. This is not a grand act, but a simple, quiet surrender to what is. When we stop waiting for the silence to arrive, when we stop demanding that the moment meet our idea of how it should be, we find the silence is already here. The tension dissolves, not through force, but through the simple act of dropping the burden. The space we thought was empty is filled with the quiet hum of presence. This dropping of expectations is not an effort to achieve something new. It is the natural release that happens when we stop resisting the truth of this moment. It is the moment when the mind, free from the weight of should, simply rests. This quiet release, this dropping of all demands, reveals our true nature. A nature that is always already present, always already silent, always already at peace. It is not something we find. It is the space that remains when we stop looking for it. This is the deep knowing that comes not from thought, but from simply being. We often seek silence as stillness, a quiet space untouched by life's flow. Yet true silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of awareness within the ever-changing dance of existence. Nature holds this wisdom without words, teaching us that silence is not static, but alive in the constant rhythm of becoming. The wind stirs the leaves. A single leaf detaches. It falls. The wind continues. There is no struggle, no demand for permanence. The stream moves over stones, each drop unique, yet the water remains. This is nature's quiet lesson. Impermanence is not loss, but the very ground of presence. When we observe the world without naming or grasping, we step out of the mental patterns that bind us to what should be. We simply hear the rustle of grass, the distant call of a bird, the soft sigh of air through branches. We do not label the sound bird or wind. We hear only the sound itself, pure and unadorned, as the leaf falls and the stream flows. This is the practice of noticing nature's silence, not in the absence of noise, but in the gentle space between thought and sound, where the mind releases its need to control or understand. Find a quiet spot outdoors, perhaps under a tree or beside a small patch of garden. Sit for 5 minutes. Let your eyes soften, your shoulders relax. Notice the sounds around you, the whisper of leaves, the hum of insects, the distant murmur of a passing car. Do not chase the sound. Do not name it. Simply let it arise and pass like a cloud in the sky. When the thought that's a bird arises, gently return to the sound itself, the vibration in the air, the feeling in the body. There is no need to hold on to the sound or push it away. It simply is, and so are you. This small act of noticing without judgment dissolves the old habit of labeling and resisting life as it is. The mental noise we carry, the stories, the worries, the expectations fades not through force but through the quiet recognition that everything is already changing, already releasing. In that 5 minutes, you're not trying to become silent. You are simply remembering that silence has always been here, woven into the fabric of every passing moment. The leaf falls, the stream flows, the sound rises and falls. And in that knowing, there is a deep ease, a release of the tension we carry, like an unneeded burden. You do not need to create silence. You only need to stop blocking it. The wind moves through the trees, and the trees move with the wind. There is no separation. This connection to nature deepens our understanding of silence. Silence is not empty space waiting to be filled. It is the ground of all that is, the calm water beneath the surface of every thought. When we stop chasing the noise within and without, we discover something already here, already clear. This nature, our true nature, is not created by effort or thought. It is the stillness beneath the waves of mental activity, the unchanging awareness that witnesses all change. In the quiet, the mind becomes clear, like still water reflecting the sky. Not because we made it so, but because we stopped resisting the natural state. This is not silence as absence of sound, but silence as the awareness within life's constant flow. As we glimpsed in the previous chapter. Yet here, we move deeper. Silence reveals what has always been beneath the surface of our doing. Imagine a monk sitting beneath an old pine tree during a gentle rain. The sound of drops on leaves is soft. The wind rustles the branches. Yet the monk is not listening to the rain. Instead, the mind settles into the quiet space between the sounds. Thoughts arise, like clouds passing, a memory, a worry, but they do not hold the attention. Behind each thought, there is a spacious awareness, vast and undisturbed. The rain continues, the tree stands, and the monk simply is, with no need to shape the moment. This is not forced calm. It is the natural state, revealed only when we stop trying to be somewhere else. The monk does not seek peace. He rests in the peace that was always present, noticing how the silence behind the raindrops is the same silence within his own mind. The true nature is not something to find. It is the very space where all finding happens. So take this moment to practice. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. Let the sounds of the world come and go. The hum of the house, the distant traffic, the rhythm of your breath. Do not chase the thoughts that arise. Instead, gently notice the space behind them, the quiet that remains when a thought passes. This space is not empty. It is full of awareness, clear and calm. It is the same nature that the monk felt beneath the pine tree. You do not need to create it. You simply need to stop covering it with your busy mind. In this space, you are not a separate self struggling to be still. You are the stillness itself, aware and unchanging. The practice is not about stopping thoughts, but about resting in the awareness that holds them. As you sit, feel how this silence is not separate from your life. It is the same ground beneath your feet, the same space within your breath. The more you notice it, the more you realize that this calm, clear nature is not something you gain. It is what you are. When the 5 minutes end, carry this quiet awareness into your next step, your next word, your next breath. Notice how the space behind your thoughts is already here, guiding you to be fully present without effort. This revelation, the deep knowing that your true nature is silent and unchanging, naturally leads to letting go of self-centeredness. It is not a choice to be made, but a gentle unfolding as the river flows without needing to decide its path. Silence is not something we find outside ourselves, but the very ground of our being. Yet we often build walls around this silence, walls made of our own stories about who we are, what we need, and how the world should treat us. This self-centeredness, this constant whispering of me, creates a barrier between us and the deep peace that is already here. It pulls us away from the present moment, into a future we imagine or a past we regret, mistaking these mental constructions for reality. The true nature we discovered in the stillness beneath thoughts, the calm awareness that was always present, becomes obscured by the noise of the me story. To truly rest in that silence, we must gently let go of this self-centered narrative. Imagine a student sitting with a Zen teacher, struggling to meditate. Their mind is filled with thoughts. I'm not focused enough. My breath is too shallow. Everyone else seems to be calm. The student is trapped in a story about their own failure, creating a tightness in their chest. The teacher, noticing this subtle tension, doesn't offer advice about technique. Instead, The teacher simply says, "Notice the breath, not the story." The student pauses, feels the tightness, then turns attention to the natural rhythm of the breath entering and leaving the body. The story of me struggling dissolves for a moment, not because they stopped thinking, but because they stopped feeding the narrative. In that simple turn, the barrier of self-centeredness falls away, and the underlying stillness becomes palpable again. The silence wasn't absent. The story was simply released. This is the practice we offer now. It is not about becoming perfect or stopping thoughts entirely. It is simply noticing the moment when the me story arises, when you find yourself caught in "I must be right," "I am not good enough," "they should see me differently." Feel the subtle tightening, the sense of separation. Then, without judgment, gently return your attention to the simple, natural movement of your breath. Feel the cool air entering, the warmth leaving. This is not an escape from the story. It is a soft return to the ground beneath it. The breath is always here, always silent, always present. When you notice the me story, the breath becomes your anchor, pulling you back from the edge of the story into the spacious awareness that holds it all. It is a gentle return, a soft letting go, not a struggle. Each time you notice and return, you strengthen your connection to that inherent silence, that unchanging awareness already present within the flow of life. This noticing, this soft release of the me story, is not a grand achievement. It is simply the quiet, persistent practice of turning away from the constructed self and turning towards the simplicity of being. It dissolves the barriers we build, revealing the deep peace that was always there, waiting beneath the surface noise. As you practice this, you may find the silence not as a place to go, but as the very space you are already resting within. When the me story is no longer the only story told, this letting go allows us to fully embrace the present moment. Imagine the gentle rhythm of rain on leaves, a sound that seems to deepen the quiet around it. This is the silence we are exploring now, not as the absence of sound, but as the spacious awareness that holds all sound. It is the ground beneath the surface of activity. The unchanging presence we touched in the previous chapter yet now discover is already here, woven into the fabric of our daily life. True silence is not something we wait for in stillness. It is the very essence that remains calm even as the world moves around us. When we stop resisting the busyness of tasks, the noise of thoughts, the pull of urgency, we find this inherent stillness is not separate from the activity, but is the awareness that observes it all with gentle clarity. Consider a simple moment. You are chopping vegetables for dinner, the knife tapping steadily on the board, the clatter of pots, the thoughts about what needs to be done next. In this ordinary scene, you might feel the pressure of time, the sense of being pulled in many directions. Yet, if you pause for just one breath, truly pause, feeling the air move in and out. The tension in your shoulders soften. The chopping sound becomes part of the background, not the center. In that single breath, the inner stillness is not lost. It is revealed. It was always there, beneath the surface of doing, like the calm center of a pond, even when leaves fall upon its surface. This is the silence in the midst of activity, not the absence of motion, but the presence of calm awareness within it. This is the practice we invite you to explore now. While you are engaged in any task, whether it is writing an email, walking to the store, or listening to a conversation, take one deep, slow breath. Feel the air filling your lungs, the gentle expansion in your body. As you exhale, let go of the need to rush, to be perfect, to control the moment. Simply be present with the breath and notice the stillness that arises within you, right here, right now, amidst the flow of activity. It is not a special state you create. It is the natural state of your awareness when you stop pushing against life. You are not trying to become still. You are remembering that stillness is already your nature. The busyness continues, but your relationship to it changes. The world remains active, yet you are anchored in a quiet center, not separate from the activity, but deeply connected to it with a calm heart. This quiet presence is not passive. It is the active, clear awareness that allows you to respond to life with wisdom rather than reaction. It dissolves the illusion that peace must be found only in quiet rooms or distant mountains. Peace is found right here, in the middle of the kitchen, the office, the crowded street. It is the recognition that our true nature is not disturbed by the changing conditions of the world. It is the calm water beneath the ripples. When we practice this one breath, we are not adding something new. We are simply allowing the inherent silence to be known, moment by moment, in the midst of everything we do. This gentle practice of finding silence within the flow of activity is the bridge that leads us deeper. It prepares the mind to settle into the stillness of formal meditation with greater ease, for we have already experienced that stillness is not something we seek elsewhere. It is the very ground of our being, present even as we move through the world. This knowing, this simple remembering in the midst of doing, is the heart of Zen. It is the path that begins with silence and returns to silence, not as an escape, but as the natural, vibrant awareness that illuminates every moment of life. As you continue your day, remember this: the silence you seek is not waiting for you to finish your tasks. It is waiting for you to take one breath and notice it is already here. This practice of silence in activity prepares us for deeper meditation. Imagine sitting beneath an ancient tree on a quiet morning. Sunlight filters through the canopy, dappling the forest floor. A bird calls, a single clear note that hangs in the air for a moment before fading. Then, silence. Not empty silence, but a deep, full silence that holds the echo of the sound. This is the sound of silence in nature. It is not the absence of sound, but the spaciousness where all sound arises and dissolves. The rustle of leaves, the distant wind in the pines, the hum of insects, all these sounds exist within a vast, inherent quiet. They do not fill the silence. They emerge from it, like ripples on a still pond. The silence is the ground, the listening space, the very nature of sound itself. This is the truth revealed in nature's quiet moments. We often mistake silence for emptiness, a void to be filled with noise or thought. But true silence, the silence we are discovering, is not empty. It is full of subtle life, full of the space that allows sound to be heard. When we listen deeply to the bird's song, we don't just hear the notes we recognize. We begin to hear the space between the notes, the quiet that holds the song, the stillness that makes the sound meaningful. In that space, there is no separation between sound and silence. They are one seamless flow. The bird's call is the silence expressing itself, and the silence is the call resting in its source. This is not a concept to understand. It is a presence to be felt, a quiet awareness that is always here, even as the world makes its music. So, close your eyes for a moment. Gently place yourself in this forest space. Listen to the bird song around you, wherever you are. Don't chase the sound, let it come to you. Notice the brief pause after each note, the soft space where the sound ends and the next begins. In that space, feel the stillness, not as absence, but as the fullness of being. Let the bird song pass through this stillness without needing to name it or hold on to it. The silence is not something you create, it is what you are already resting in, the ground of your awareness. As you notice the silence between the notes, you may feel a gentle softening, a quieting of the inner chatter that usually fills the space. This is not effort, it is simply allowing the natural stillness to be known. This practice is simple yet profound. Sit quietly for 3 minutes. Listen to the sounds around you, wind, distant traffic, your own breath. But focus especially on the quiet spaces between those sounds. Notice how the silence isn't empty, but rich with presence. Feel the calm awareness that holds everything. As you do this, you are not adding something new. You are simply recognizing what has always been true, what is inherent in every moment. The silence is not separate from the sound. It is the sound's own nature. This deepening of awareness in the quiet spaces of nature is the bridge to the stillness we find in our own meditation. As you practice listening to the silence between natural sounds, you are training your mind to rest in the inherent calm of awareness itself. You are learning to sit in the quiet not as a void, but as the full, spacious presence that is always here. This quiet space, revealed in the forest and in your own listening, becomes the stable ground from which you can return to your cushion, to your breath, to the deep, unwavering silence that is your true nature. This deepens our ability to sit in silence during meditation. As the gentle rhythm of natural silence we explored in the rustling leaves and flowing streams settles within you, the path turns inward. The heart of Zen practice, the steady ground from which all understanding arises, is found in the simple act of sitting. This is not merely a posture, but a profound return to the present moment, the very core of our being. The stillness we discovered in the world around us is not separate from the stillness within. It is the same spacious awareness, now gently directed towards the center of our own existence. True silence, as we learned, is inherent calm awareness, not the absence of sound. Here, on the cushion, we cultivate that awareness directly, using the breath as our anchor, our gentle compass in the ever-shifting landscape of thought. When the mind, like a restless bird, takes flight into planning or memory, do not judge the distraction. Simply notice it with the same quiet compassion you might offer a passing cloud. Then, with the softest intention, return to the natural flow of your breath. Feel the subtle rise and fall of your abdomen, the coolness at the nostrils, the warmth as you exhale. This is not forcing the mind to be still, but gently guiding it back to its natural resting place. The breath is always here, steady and reliable, a constant point of return. It is the anchor that holds you in the present moment, preventing you from being swept away by the current of thought. Each time you notice your mind has wandered and gently guide it back, you are strengthening your ability to rest in that inherent calm awareness. This is the essence of deepening meditation. Imagine yourself sitting quietly, perhaps in a simple room, the morning light soft on the floor. A bird sings outside the window. Your mind follows the melody, wondering about the bird, its color, its song. You notice the thought, the gentle pull of the sound. Instead of clinging to the story, you softly release it, drawing your attention back to the breath. Feel the cool air entering your nose, the quiet expansion in your chest. The bird continues to sing. The world continues to move. But within you, there is a growing stillness. You are not ignoring the bird, nor are you caught by it. You are simply sitting with the sound and the breath, resting in the spacious awareness that holds both. This is not about achieving a blank mind, but about resting in the natural clarity that arises when we stop chasing thoughts and return to the anchor. So, take this moment to offer yourself a small space. Find a comfortable position. Sit for 10 minutes. Let your body settle. Your eyes soften. Feel your breath, a gentle rhythm. When thoughts arise about the day, the past, the future, do not struggle. Simply notice the thought, as you would notice a leaf drifting past, and return to the breath. Each return is a gentle act of mindfulness, a deepening of your connection to the present. There is no need for perfection. The practice is in the returning itself, again and again. This focused sitting, this gentle return to the breath, is the heart of Zen practice. It is the training ground where the stillness discovered in nature becomes the unshakable ground of your own mind. This focused sitting extends to mindfulness in all activities. The stillness you discover here, the calm awareness anchored by your breath, will ripple out into every moment of your day. The sound of silence we heard in nature was not separate from this silence within. It was the same profound stillness, now fully known and embodied. As you move from the cushion into the world, carry this quiet center with you. The stillness flows beyond the cushion into the act of washing dishes, walking to the store, speaking with a friend. It is the silence that is the ground of all activity, the very essence of Zen. This is how silence begins with stillness and ends with stillness, embracing every moment of your life. As the deep stillness cultivated in seated practice settles within, we discover silence is not merely the space between sounds, but the very ground of our being, present even in the simplest actions. This chapter invites you to carry that quiet awareness into the heart of daily life, beginning with the profound simplicity of eating. Mindful eating is not about dieting or discipline. It is a moving meditation, a gentle return to presence with every bite. It is the practice of meeting the sensory world with full attention, dissolving the habit of distraction that pulls us away from the immediacy of now. Imagine sitting with a single piece of fruit, perhaps a ripe peach. Before you take the first bite, pause. Feel the cool weight in your hand. Notice the soft fuzz, the subtle scent rising from its skin. Bring your awareness to the breath for a moment, anchoring yourself in the quiet space within. Now lift the fruit to your mouth. Feel the gentle pressure of your teeth as they meet the yielding flesh. Notice the initial burst of juice, the sweet tart taste unfolding on your tongue. Feel the texture as it breaks apart, soft, fibrous, cool. Pay attention to the sensation of swallowing, the quiet movement as the food travels down your throat. There is no need to rush. No need to think about the next bite, the next task. Simply be with the taste, the texture, the sensation as it arises and passes. If your mind wanders to the day's worries or tomorrow's plans, gently acknowledge the thought like a cloud passing through the sky, and softly return your attention to the fruit, to the feeling in your mouth, to the quiet presence of your breath. This is the essence of the practice. It is not about perfection, but about the gentle, repeated return to the present moment, one sensory experience at a time. Eating one bite slowly, savoring every detail, transforms a routine act into a profound connection with the here and now. In that single bite, the noise of the world fades, the frantic pace of thought dissolves. You are simply tasting, feeling, being. The silence within deepens, not as an absence, but as a fullness of awareness holding the taste, the sensation, the quiet space of your own being. This is how the stillness of the cushion flows into the movement of daily life, not as a separate practice, but as the very fabric of how we engage with the world. Reflect on your own eating moments. How often do you truly taste your food? Or are you already planning the next thought, the next action? How many meals pass without a single mindful breath? This practice is a gentle invitation to reclaim the present moment, one bite at a time. It is not about adding more to your day, but about being fully present within what is already here. It is the practice of meeting life with the same quiet reverence you bring to the breath on the cushion, discovering that the deepest silence is not found only in stillness, but also in the full, aware engagement of the present moment. As you eat with this mindful awareness, you begin to understand that silence is not something we seek only in quiet rooms, but the very quality of attention we bring to every interaction. The patience learned in savoring a single bite of fruit becomes the patience you bring to listening to a friend. The non-judgmental awareness of taste becomes the open-hearted presence in a conversation. The deep calm cultivated in the quiet act of eating is the same calm that allows you to be fully present with another human being, without distraction, without the need to fill the space. This mindful eating extends to all interactions with others. In the quiet space cultivated through breath and mindful eating, we now move, not with haste, but with the unhurried rhythm of presence. Walking meditation begins where stillness meets motion, a seamless flow where silence becomes the foundation of every step. This is not walking to a destination, but walking to be fully here in the quiet pulse of the present moment. The mind, gently guided back to the breath in stillness, now finds its anchor in the subtle sensations of movement itself. Feel the soft release of the heel, the gentle shift of weight, the quiet press of the ball of the foot against the earth. Each step is a return to silence, not a break from it. The sound of your own footsteps fades into the background, replaced by the quiet hum of awareness within. There is no need for words, no thought to chase or hold. The silence deepens as you notice the subtle shift of muscles, the gentle sway of the body, the calm that settles when the mind stops narrating the journey and simply experiences it. This is the essence of walking in silence, to walk without the inner chatter, to move without the demand for meaning, to be fully present in the simple act of stepping. It is not about the distance covered, but the depth felt in each point of contact with the ground. As you walk slowly, perhaps along a path, or simply within your space, let the focus rest on the sensation of the foot lifting, moving, and placing. Notice the quiet calm that arises not from forcing stillness, but from allowing movement to be still. The mind may wander, as it always does, but the practice is the gentle return, not to the breath alone, but to the quiet sensation of the step itself. This is not effort. It is surrender to the natural rhythm of being. Feel the silence not as absence, but as the space where sensation, calm, and presence meet. You are walking, yet utterly still. You are moving, yet completely grounded. The world continues its quiet hum around you, but within, there is only the soft, steady pulse of each step. This practice, walking slowly for 5 minutes, feeling silence in each step, is the integration of stillness into motion. It transforms the ordinary act of walking into a profound expression of Zen. You step, and the silence deepens. You move, and the calm grows. There is no separation between the silence within and the silence of the world. The stillness cultivated in breath and the mindful eating now flows through the body as you walk. The quiet presence that held your meal now holds your steps. This walking meditation is not an exercise to be mastered, but a gentle return to the natural state of being. It reveals that silence is not something we find in quiet places only, but the very ground of our movement. As you step with awareness, you discover that the silence you seek is already here, in the space between one step and the next. It is the quiet hum beneath the sound of your feet. It is the calm that follows the thought. It is the world itself, resting in stillness. This walking meditation connects us to silence in the world. The silence we feel beneath our feet is the same silence that holds the rustling leaves, the distant birdsong, the quiet pulse of the earth. The stillness within becomes a bridge, not a barrier, to the profound silence that surrounds us. When we walk in silence, we do not leave the world behind. We step into its quiet heart. The practice begins with silence and ends with silence, not as an end, but as the beginning of true connection. This is the deepening of meditation, where movement becomes a form of stillness, and every step carries the quiet wisdom of the present moment. As we move through the day with the quiet presence cultivated in our walking meditation, a subtle shift occurs. The stillness we carried with each step now settles deeper within us, not as an absence, but as a fertile ground. This is the space where silence begins to reveal its true nature, not merely the lack of sound, but a profound openness. When we release the inner chatter, the constant commentary on what is happening or what should be, we find ourselves more attuned to the subtle vibrations of the world around us. We hear the unspoken sigh of a neighbor burdened by loss, feel the quiet anxiety in a friend's hesitation, Sense the shared human fragility in the space between words. Silence doesn't block these things. It dissolves the barriers that prevent us from truly seeing and feeling them. It allows compassion to arise naturally, like a flower opening in the morning light, without effort or intention to be kind. In that open space, we are no longer separate from another's suffering. We simply are with it, held within the quiet. Consider the simple moment before entering a room where someone seems troubled. Instead of rushing in with words or solutions, pause. Take just one breath, one moment of silent presence. Feel the space within yourself soften. In that single breath of silence, the usual rush to fix, to explain, to fill the void, dissolves. You are no longer focused on your own thoughts or the need to perform. You become fully present for the other person, their quiet pain, their unspoken need. This is the bridge. In that moment of silence before interaction, the heart opens without resistance. You see them clearly, not as a problem to solve, but as a fellow traveler in the human journey. The compassion that flows is not forced. It is the natural expression of being fully present, of recognizing the shared humanity in the silence. It is not about grand gestures, but about the quiet depth of simply being there, fully awake to the other. This practice, this intentional moment of silence before engagement, is the heart of integrating compassion into our daily life. It transforms how we move through the world. Before responding to a colleague's frustration, before offering advice to a family member, before even greeting a stranger, pause. Take one breath. Feel the quiet space within. Let the silence open your heart, not as an act of will, but as a natural unfolding. In that single breath, the hardness of the day melts. The world softens. You are no longer the observer of suffering, but the compassionate presence within it. This is not passive. It is the most active form of being present. It requires no words, only the willingness to be still for a moment, to let the silence do its work of connecting us. As you carry this practice into your own moments, notice how the simple act of pausing before speaking or acting changes the quality of your connection. The words that follow may be fewer, but they carry more weight. The presence you offer becomes a gift, a silent acknowledgement of another's existence and worth. This is how silence deepens into compassion, and compassion deepens our embrace of the present moment. You've walked with stillness, dear friend, feeling the quiet pulse of presence in each step. You've known the calm that dissolves in a narration, the grounded ease that opens the heart. Now, as you settle deeper, remember this: the silence Zen seeks is not a distant goal, but the very ground you stand on right now. It is found not in the absence of sound, but in the full, unburdened awareness of this moment. The past, with its regrets, is a shadow cast by yesterday. The future, with its worries, is a shadow cast by tomorrow. Both pull you away from the only place silence truly lives, the present. Let them go. Release the weight of what has been and what might be. There is no need to chase silence. It is already here, waiting in the space between your thoughts, in the simple act of being. Imagine sitting by a window as morning light spills across the room. The steam rises from your tea, a delicate curl against the cool air. You hear the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the distant chirp of a bird. You feel the warmth of the cup in your hands, the softness of the chair beneath you. There is no need to name the bird, to analyze the steam, to decide if the light is beautiful. Simply notice. The sound is sound. The warmth is warmth. The light is light. This is the practice. For 1 minute, let the past and future dissolve like mist. Rest in the quiet pulse of now. Notice the breath entering, the breath leaving without judgment. Notice the sensation of your feet on the floor, the air on your skin, the sound of your own quiet heartbeat. If thoughts arise about yesterday's argument, tomorrow's meeting, gently acknowledge them like clouds passing through the sky, and return to the sound of the bird, the warmth of the cup, the simple feeling of being here. This is not about emptying the mind, but about filling it with the fullness of what is. It is the practice of presence itself. In this minute, you are not seeking silence, you are discovering it. The silence was always here, woven into the fabric of the present moment. It was in the stillness of your walking, the calm before your step. It is in the quiet space between the sound of the bird and the next breath. This practice, this simple noticing without judgment, is how Zen moves from thought to stillness. It is how the heart, unburdened by time, opens naturally to compassion. It is how the ordinary becomes sacred, the cup, the light, the breath. When you practice this for 1 minute, you're not just observing the present moment. You are stepping into the silence that has been your true nature all along. You are releasing the illusion that silence must be found somewhere else, and discovering it right here, right now, in the very act of being fully awake. This embrace of the present moment, this gentle return to the quiet pulse of now, is the key to living in silence. It is the path that begins and ends with the same profound quiet, the same deep, unshakable peace. This simple practice becomes the key. Silence in relationships is not the absence of words, but the presence of being. It is the gentle space where words are unnecessary because connection flows directly from shared awareness. Think of two people sitting together after a long day, perhaps sharing a cup of tea. The conversation may have ended, yet the air feels warm, open, and deeply connected. There is no need to fill the quiet with chatter. Instead, they simply breathe together. noticing the steam rising from their cups, the soft light on the table, the quiet rhythm of their own breaths. This shared stillness is not empty. It is full of attention, a quiet acknowledgement of each other's presence. It dissolves the usual need to perform or explain, allowing a deeper human connection to emerge. This is the essence of silence in relationships, presence without words, a natural flow of compassion that requires no effort, only willingness to be fully here, together. In the Zen tradition, such moments are not accidental but cultivated. A master might sit silently with a student, not waiting for them to speak, but simply being present, allowing the student to feel safe enough to be still. The silence becomes a bridge, not a barrier. It is a practice of dropping the need to be heard or to fix anything, simply resting in the shared reality of the moment. When we do this, we discover that silence is not cold or distant. It is warm, intimate, and profoundly connecting. It invites the other to be exactly as they are, without judgment or expectation. This quiet presence becomes the foundation for true understanding, where words are not needed because the heart already knows. So, try this in your next interaction. Choose a moment with someone you care about, perhaps over coffee, walking together, or sitting in a quiet room. Before speaking, simply pause. Be silent for 1 minute. Let your attention rest gently on the person, not on what you might say next, but on the simple fact of being together. Notice the natural rhythm of your breath, the soft sounds around you, the subtle shift in the other person's posture or expression. Do not force connection, simply allow it to arise in the space you create. What happens when you stop speaking? Do you feel more grounded? Does the other person seem to relax, to lean into the quiet? You might notice a quiet smile, a shared glance, or simply a sense of ease that wasn't there before. This minute of silence is not passive, it is active presence, a choice to fully inhabit the moment with another. This practice reveals something profound. Silence in relationships is not about withdrawing from the world, but about engaging with it more deeply. It is the natural expression of the unburdened presence we discovered in the previous chapter, the quiet that dissolves barriers, allowing compassion to flow effortlessly. When we stop needing to fill the space with words, we make room for something more genuine to be felt. The connection deepens because it is no longer dependent on the story we tell, but on the simple, shared truth of being here, now. This silence in relationships deepens inner silence. Feel the quiet beneath the thoughts, not the absence of sound, but the deep stillness that exists when the mind releases its constant chatter. This is the heart's silence, not something to be sought far away, but the very ground of your being, a deep well of peace waiting to be recognized. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the fullness of presence where all disturbance settles. In this quiet, you are not chasing silence, you are simply resting in the natural state of your heart, already whole and at peace. This is the essence of embracing the present moment fully. The gentle release of mental noise is not about forcing stillness, but about letting go of the need to control or fix the moment. When you soften your grip on the endless stream of thoughts, the heart's silence naturally emerges, clear and calm as a still pond reflecting the moon. It is this inner quiet that allows compassion to flow without effort, without the weight of past regrets or future worries. It is the foundation for everything that follows. Imagine a pond on a windless evening. The surface is perfectly still, holding the reflection of the moon and the stars without distortion. The water is not empty. It is full of clarity and depth. This is the silence of the heart. It is not the silence of being alone, but the profound connection to the present moment that arises when we stop trying to make it different. The mind may still offer its usual commentary, but beneath it all, there is this quiet depth, this wellspring of peace. You don't need to create it. You simply need to stop covering it up with the noise of your own making. Let the thoughts pass like clouds across the sky and feel the space between them where the heart's silence resides. This is not a technique, but a gentle turning inward, a softening of the heart's surface so the stillness beneath can be felt. Now, take a moment. Place your hand gently over your heart. Feel the steady rhythm, the quiet pulse beneath your touch. Breathe in deeply, and as you breathe out, release the need to think, to plan, to judge. Let the mental noise soften like ripples fading on a pond. Simply rest your awareness in the quiet space within your heart. Feel the deep well of peace that has always been there, beneath the surface of your thoughts. Do not search for silence. Simply feel the silence that is already present. Let this quiet awareness hold you for 2 minutes. If thoughts arise, welcome them gently as passing clouds and return to the quiet pulse beneath. This is not about achieving a state, but about recognizing what is already true. The heart's silence is not a place you go, it is the place you are. When you stop moving away from yourself, this quiet awareness within the heart is not an end, but the very foundation. It is the ground from which all true understanding, all compassionate action, all peaceful presence in the world naturally flows. This heart silence is the quiet center that allows the outer world to be seen clearly, without distortion. It is the unshakable peace that remains when the world turns. The deep well that never runs dry. This is the silence that begins and ends everything. The true essence of Zen, waiting for you to simply feel it within. This heart silence is the foundation for the ultimate goal. In the quiet space between breaths, between words, lies a deeper language. Silence here is not emptiness, but fullness. A presence that speaks without sound. It is the space where true understanding blooms, where words fall away and only connection remains. We often believe communication requires speech, yet the most profound exchanges happen when we simply allow silence to be the vessel. This is not silence as absence, but as active presence, a gentle holding of space for another to be fully known. It is the warmth in a shared glance after a long walk, the unspoken comfort when words fail, the quiet assurance that says, "I am here with you, exactly as you are." This is how silence communicates what words cannot, the depth of our attention, the authenticity of our being. Consider the simple scene of two friends sitting together after a meal. The dishes cleared away. They might have shared stories, laughter, and the usual flow of conversation. Now, they sit in comfortable silence, not awkward, but deeply settled. The air feels soft, unhurried. One might glance at the other, and a quiet smile passes between them. No words are needed to say, "I see you. I'm with you." This moment is enough. The silence isn't empty. It's filled with the resonance of their shared presence, a mutual recognition that needs no verbal confirmation. This is the essence of silent communication, deepening the bond not by adding more sound, but by letting the space itself become the bridge. This practice invites you to step into your own moments of connection. In your next conversation, whether with a friend, a family member, or even a stranger, try this. Choose one moment of silence. Pause before responding. Let the words you might have spoken simply rest. Breathe. Notice what happens. What arises in the quiet space? Do you feel a shift in the other person's energy? Does your own mind settle? Does the connection feel more grounded, more real? Observe without judgment. Feel the subtle shift as the space between words becomes a place of understanding. You might find the silence isn't empty at all, but rich with the unspoken acknowledgement of your shared humanity. It is a practice of radical presence, offering the gift of your full attention without the need to fill the air. This simple act, choosing silence for one moment, becomes a doorway. It reveals that communication flows not only through the voice, but through the heart's quiet knowing. It shows us that our inherent silence, the peaceful ground we discovered in the heart, is the very source of compassionate connection. We don't have to seek it. We simply need to be present enough to let it speak. This quiet knowing leads us to the ultimate understanding that true connection is always already here, resting in the space between all things. Zen begins with silence and ends with silence. This is not a journey to a distant place, but a return to what has always been true. The ultimate goal of Zen is not to reach silence through effort, but to rest in the silence that is already here, beneath the surface of every thought. We often believe silence must be earned, built, or found. Yet it was never lost. It was simply covered over by the constant chatter of the mind, by worries, plans, judgments, and the endless seeking of something more. The goal is not to create silence, but to uncover it, to let the layers of thought fall away and discover the stillness that has been present all along. This is the quiet truth beneath the noise. Consider the monk tending his small garden at dawn. He moves with no particular aim, his hands in the cool soil, the sound of water from the bamboo spout, the rustle of leaves. His mind is not chasing a future goal or ruminating on the past. There is no "I must make this garden perfect" or "I must feel peaceful." He simply is, present in the act of tending, the silence of his awareness settling naturally around him. His thoughts may arise like clouds passing through a clear sky, but they do not claim the sky. He rests in the stillness that is his own nature, not by forcing it, but by allowing it to be seen. This is the essence of the practice, not to become silent, but to recognize silence as the ground of being. Now, invite yourself into this quiet knowing. Find a place where you can sit comfortably, not for achievement, but simply for being. Set a gentle timer for 10 minutes. Sit with your spine naturally upright, your hands resting softly. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Let the world continue as it will. Sounds, sensations, thoughts will arise. Do not chase them. Do not cling to them. Simply notice them passing through the space of your awareness, like leaves drifting on a calm stream. There is no need to quiet the mind. The mind is already quiet beneath the surface. Your only task is to rest in that quiet without a goal, without a destination. Let the 10 minutes unfold without measuring or judging. If thoughts arise, greet them with a soft breath and gently return to the simple presence of sitting. This is not about emptying the mind, but about resting in the fullness of silence that is already here. This practice is not about doing something new. It is about recognizing what has always been true. The silence you seek is not outside you, waiting to be grasped. It is the very nature of your mind, obscured only by the habit of thinking. When you sit without seeking, without striving, you begin to feel the deep, quiet ground beneath your feet. You realize the silence was never absent. It was waiting for you to stop obscuring it. This quiet knowing, this effortless resting in what is the ultimate goal. It is not an endpoint to reach, but the natural state of being that is always present. You do not arrive at silence. You remember it and rest within it. This quiet knowing leads to experiencing the silence of the mind. Silence is not something we create, nor a state we must reach. It is the very ground of our being, the natural stillness beneath the surface of thought. This knowing, which deepened in the quiet presence of connection, now reveals itself as the mind's own true nature. The mind does not need to become silent. It simply needs to remember its inherent silence, which has always been there, untouched by the constant flow of mental noise. This silence is not emptiness, not a void waiting to be filled, but the absence of the chatter we mistake for our true self. It is the space where thoughts arise like ripples on a pond, yet the water beneath remains perfectly still. To seek silence as a goal is to miss the point entirely, for silence is not a destination. It is the home we never left. Consider the ancient monk sitting beneath the ancient pine. Rain falls softly on the leaves, a gentle rhythm against the quiet. He does not strain to hear the rain or to quiet his mind. He simply sits, aware of the rain, aware of his breath, aware of the stillness that holds both. Thoughts may come, memories, worries, plans, but he does not chase them or fight them. He observes them like clouds passing through a clear sky, seeing them as temporary movements within the vast, unchanging quiet. The mind does not become empty. It simply stops clinging to the noise. The silence is not absent. It is the presence that allows the rain, the thoughts, the breath to be known without disturbance. This is not effort, but effortless rest in what already is. Now, take this understanding into your own stillness. Find a quiet place to sit. Set a gentle timer for 5 minutes. Close your eyes if it feels right, or soften your gaze upon a single point. Begin by noticing the natural rhythm of your breath, the subtle sensations in your body, the quiet hum of the world around you. When thoughts arise, planning, remembering, judging, do not pull away or push them down. Simply notice them with a gentle curiosity, as you would notice a bird flying across the sky. See them as passing clouds, not as the sky itself. Let them come and go without following their story. Your task is not to stop thinking, but to rest in the awareness that holds the thinking. The silence is not found by emptying the mind, but by recognizing that the mind's natural state is already silent, even as thoughts flow. This is not a practice of control, but of recognition. You are not trying to become still. You are simply remembering that stillness is already here, beneath the surface of the day's activity. In these 5 minutes, feel the warmth of the earth beneath you, the quiet pulse of your own being, the deep peace that requires no action to be known. This silence of the mind remains. It is not a state you lose when the world becomes loud or the challenges grow sharp. When the phone rings with urgent news, when a difficult conversation unfolds, when the heart feels heavy, the silence is still there, the deep ground beneath the surface noise. It is not that the noise disappears. It is that you no longer mistake the noise for your true self. The mind's natural state remains calm and clear as the rain continues to fall on the pine. This is the ultimate goal of Zen, not to reach a distant silence, but to rest, finally, in the silence that has always been your home. This quiet knowing, this deep rest in the natural state, is the end point of the journey and the beginning of every moment. It is the silence that holds all challenges, not by erasing them, but by revealing the unshakable peace that exists within them. Challenges arrive like sudden rain on a quiet path, a word spoken harshly, a task that overwhelms, a moment when the world seems to tilt. In these moments, we often react with the same turbulence that surrounds us. We clutch at solutions. We tighten our grip. We let the noise of the external storm drown out the stillness within. Yet Zen teaches us that true strength lies not in reacting against the challenge, but in meeting it from the deep well of inner silence. This silence is not the absence of sound, nor is it passive withdrawal. It is the clear, unshaken ground beneath all our thoughts and emotions. It is the natural state of the mind, as calm as the lake beneath the ripples of wind. When the storm of difficulty rises, silence provides the clarity we desperately need. Without the inner noise of panic or judgment, we see the situation as it truly is. We hear the actual words, not the hidden meaning we fear. We feel the pressure, not the imagined collapse. We recognize the next step, not the overwhelming whole. This clarity is not found through forceful effort. It is discovered when we stop pushing against the current and simply rest in the quiet center. The mind, when unburdened by the struggle to control the storm, naturally becomes a clear mirror reflecting reality without distortion. Consider the river during a sudden downpour. The water may churn and foam. The banks may feel unstable, yet the deep current beneath the surface remains steady, flowing with the same purpose, undisturbed by the surface agitation. It does not rage against the rain. It simply is, holding the shape of the land within its flow. This is the silence we access in the midst of challenge. It is not ignoring the rain, it is knowing the river's nature beneath the surface. The river continues its journey, clear and strong, even as the rain falls. So too can we, meeting the challenge with the same quiet strength, the same unshakable calm. This is the practice we return to. When the challenge arises, when the tension rises in your chest, when the mind begins to spin with worry, do not chase the thought. Instead, take one deep, slow breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Feel the slight expansion in your body. Let that breath be the anchor. Let it draw you back to the quiet space within, the space that has always been there, beneath the surface noise. In that single breath, you return to silence. You remember that you are not the storm. You are the calm sea holding the storm within its vastness. This breath is not a pause in action. It is the foundation for clear, purposeful action. It is the moment when the mind, freed from the tyranny of reaction, finds its true direction. In this simple act of returning to silence with one breath, we touch the very essence of Zen. We realize that the silence we meet challenges with is not separate from the silence of the universe itself. It is not a small refuge we build, it is the fundamental nature of all things, the quiet ground upon which everything arises and passes. This silence in challenge reveals the silence of the universe. Close your eyes now. Feel the space between breaths, the quiet before thought arises. This is not emptiness, but the very ground of being. The universe breathes in silence. Even as mountains rise and rivers flow, even as birds sing and wind stirs leaves, activity does not disturb the silence. It moves within it, like ripples on a still pond. The silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of deep calm that holds all sound without being touched by it. You have always been part of this silent fabric, woven into the same quiet essence that moves the stars. Your breath flows within the same silence that moves the galaxies. When you stand beneath a vast night sky, the twinkling lights are not separate from the quiet. They are the universe speaking in its own silent language. Feel the immense stillness beneath the stars, the deep peace that exists even as the cosmos turns. This is not something you must create. It is the natural state you have always been. Notice how the wind moves through the trees, how the clouds drift across the sky, how the birds call without breaking the deep quiet beneath their song. The universe does not strive to be silent, it simply is. Your heart beats in this silence. Your thoughts arise within this silence. Your very sense of self rests within this silence. It is the unshakable calm that was never lost, only forgotten in the noise of our own making. Now, take a moment to look at the sky or the stars, as we often do in the quiet hours. Do not seek to understand or to feel something new. Simply let your gaze rest there and feel the vast quiet beneath the twinkling lights. Feel how the silence is not empty but full of presence, how it holds the entire universe without effort. Notice how your own restless mind begins to soften, to settle into the same quiet ground. The stars do not worry about being stars, they simply are. The silence of the universe is not a place to reach, it is the place you have always been. It is the calm beneath the surface of all activity, the deep peace that remains when the storm passes. This is not a concept to grasp, but a reality to recognize. When you look at the stars, you are not looking at something separate from yourself. You are seeing the same silence reflected in the sky. Your own stillness is the universe seeing itself. This is the quiet truth beneath all words, beneath all striving. It is the peace that was never disturbed, the silence that was never silent. The universe is always in silence, even in activity. We are part of this universal silence, and in this recognition, the journey finds its quiet end. This universal silence is the end point of our journey. Silence is not an absence, but a presence, a gentle pulse woven into the very fabric of existence. It breathes with the universe, not as a stillness to be achieved, but as the natural rhythm we are already part of. Imagine the slow, deep inhalation of the earth after a rain, the quiet expansion of a leaf reaching for the sun, the unhurried turn of the seasons. This is the rhythm of silence, deep, steady, and inherently alive. It is the ground beneath your feet, the air within your lungs, the quiet hum of the world moving without effort. True silence does not demand you stop. It invites you to move with its natural flow. When you walk, let your steps find the rhythm of the earth beneath you. When you speak, let your words arise from this quiet pulse, not from the noise of thought. When you wash a dish, feel the water's gentle current, the calm of the act itself, not the mental chatter about the task. This is not about forcing silence. It is about noticing how silence already moves through you, through everything. Consider the monk tending his garden at dawn. He does not stand in a void waiting for silence. He bends, his hands touching the cool soil, his breath slow and steady. The sound of water from the bucket, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, they are not disturbances breaking the silence. They are the very expression of it, the rhythm of the universe unfolding through him. He waters the plants not with urgency, but with the quiet attention of the earth itself. His action is silence made visible, seamless and whole. He is not separate from the rhythm. He is the rhythm, moving with the natural pulse of all things. Now, bring this awareness to your own breath. Sit quietly for a moment, not to control it, but to simply notice. Feel the quiet expansion as you inhale, a soft, natural gathering. Feel the gentle release as you exhale, a quiet letting go. This is the universe breathing through you, the rhythm of silence made personal. Do not chase the silence. It is already here, in the space between thoughts, in the pause before the next breath. When you notice this rhythm in your own breathing, you're not adding something new. You are remembering what you have always known. It is as natural as the tide, as effortless as the wind through the trees. This noticing is not a practice to master. It is a gentle return to your inherent state. The rhythm is not something to find outside yourself. It is the very pulse of your being, quiet and constant, waiting only for you to recognize it in the ordinary moments. As you move through your day, let this rhythm guide you. When the phone rings, feel the quiet space before you answer. When you sit with a friend, let the silence between words be as nourishing as the words themselves. When you feel the pressure of the world, return to the rhythm of your breath, the quiet pulse beneath the noise. This is not escape, it is integration. It is allowing silence to be the foundation of all your actions, not a separate state to be entered. The stillness is not empty, it is full of the universe's quiet movement. And when you honor this rhythm, you step into the natural flow where silence becomes the wellspring of creativity, not as a sudden burst, but as the quiet unfolding of what has always been there. This rhythm, when honored, becomes the wellspring of creativity. Silence is not an absence, but the fertile soil from which all creation naturally unfolds. It is the deep stillness beneath the surface of thought, the quiet hum of the universe that holds all possibility before it takes form. This is the ground we have been discovering through the rhythm of breath and the pulse of existence. The unchanging nature that remains even as we move through the world. Now, we see how this silence is not separate from action, but the very source of it. Creativity does not arrive through force or frantic effort. It flows from a mind that has settled into its own quiet center. When we release the need to push or control, when we simply rest in the spaciousness of silence, new ideas arise not as sudden sparks, but as the natural unfolding of what has always been present within us. Like a still pond reflecting the sky, the mind becomes a clear vessel for the universe to express itself through us. Consider the potter shaping clay. Before the hands begin their work, there is a moment of stillness. The potter sits quietly, not thinking about the shape or the form, simply being present with the quiet hum of the workshop, the weight of the earth, the rhythm of their own breath in that space. The form emerges not from a plan, but from a deep listening. The clay feels the silence, and the hands follow its gentle guidance. This is not empty silence, it is a fullness, a quiet knowing that has always been there. The potter does not create something new. They allow the form that was already present in the stillness to take shape. The same is true for any creative act, whether writing a poem, composing music, or simply arranging flowers. The silence is not a pause before creation. It is the very medium of creation itself. So, before you begin any creative work today, take 5 minutes to sit in silence. Find a quiet corner, sit comfortably, and let your breath settle. Do not seek ideas or force a plan. Simply be with the quiet, feeling the deep calm that has been your nature all along. Notice how the mind, when released from its usual chatter, becomes clear and open. In this space, ideas will not come as demands, but as gentle suggestions, like leaves drifting on a calm stream. This is not a technique to make creativity happen. It is a return to the natural state where creativity has always been flowing. It is remembering that you are not the creator of the idea, but the clear space through which the universe expresses itself. As you sit, let go of any expectation. There is no need to produce anything. Simply rest in the silence, knowing it is already complete. Feel how this stillness is not cold or empty, but warm and deeply alive. The very ground of your being. When the 5 minutes are complete, you may find your hands moving with a new ease, your words flowing with a quiet clarity, your mind open to possibilities that felt distant before. This is not a trick. It is the natural state of a mind that has returned to its source. The silence you sat in is now woven into your action, making every gesture, every word, a gentle expression of that deep peace. Now, let this silence become action. See how creativity, born from stillness, moves through your hands, your voice, your everyday choices. This is not silence ending. It is silence expressing itself through the world, as naturally as the river flows to the sea. The quiet pulse we discovered in CH08, SC04 now finds its voice in the rhythm of your life. In the quiet space between breaths, we find the truest place to meet. Community is not merely a gathering of people, but a living current of shared presence. When we choose silence together, we step beyond the need for words to connect. This is not absence, but a profound gathering of energy, a deepening of the shared rhythm that already flows beneath all things. The space between us becomes a bridge, not a barrier. As we settle into the stillness that holds us all, in that shared quiet, the usual chatter of separate thoughts dissolves, revealing the warm, steady pulse of connection that was always there. Consider the ancient Zen monastery at dawn. Monks gather silently for morning tea, not in a room filled with conversation, but in the gentle hush of the garden. The sound of water in the stone basin, the rustle of leaves, the shared awareness of the cool morning air. These are the sounds of connection. No words are needed to share the peace, the focus, the simple act of being fully present together. This shared stillness is not passive, it is active energy, a collective breath held in unison. It creates a field of calm that settles over the group like a soft blanket, making the space itself feel alive with quiet purpose. This is the power of silence practiced together. It doesn't isolate but gathers strength, making the whole more than the sum of its parts. This is not about forcing silence or creating awkward pauses. It is about consciously choosing to let go of the need to fill every moment with sound. It is the simple, profound act of sitting together, eyes resting gently, breathing softly, allowing the quiet to become the medium of your togetherness. Try it now, even if you are alone. Pause. Notice the space around you, the subtle sounds of your own breath. Feel how the quiet invites you to be fully here, right now, without the need to explain or describe. Now imagine sharing that moment with others. Let your breath slow as theirs does. Let the shared stillness deepen the sense of belonging, of being seen and known without a single word spoken. This practice, this simple shared moment of silence, is how we weave silence into the fabric of community life. It becomes the natural state, the unspoken language of deep connection. In your own life, wherever you gather, family, friends, a small group at work, even a quiet walk with a companion, find one small moment to practice this together. Settle into a shared quiet for just 30 seconds. Let your eyes meet softly, then gently rest them elsewhere. Feel the collective energy shift, the warmth grow in the space between you. Notice how this simple act of shared stillness makes the connection feel richer, more authentic, less dependent on the constant flow of words. This is the natural integration of silence, no effort, no strain. Just the effortless unfolding of connection in the quiet space. This quiet gathering within the community. This deepening of shared presence is the gentle path leading inward. The silence we share with others becomes the mirror reflecting the deeper silence within. As the collective energy of our shared stillness settles, it begins to reveal the quiet vastness of the soul itself. This community silence leads to the silence of the soul. Silence flows through us like water through stone, deepening with each layer we uncover. We have felt the warmth of shared silence in community, the quiet hum of connection that births collective creativity. Now we turn inward, where the deepest silence resides not outside, but within the very core of our being. This is the silence of the soul, the quiet center that has always been present, untouched by the surface noise of thought or the restless pull of the ego. The soul is inherently silent and peaceful. A still pond reflecting the sky without a ripple. We do not need to create this silence. We simply need to release the layers that obscure it. The ego, that constant chatter of me and mine, is the barrier. It builds walls of worry and desire, making us believe silence must be chased or earned. Yet silence is already here, the ground beneath our feet. To connect, we do not force stillness. We gently let go. We notice the thoughts that arise, the stories we tell ourselves, and we allow them to pass like clouds, without holding on or pushing them away. This release is the key. It is not about emptying the mind, but about softening the grip of the self. Imagine sitting quietly in a garden as the afternoon light shifts. The birdsong continues, a neighbor calls, but you do not engage. You simply sit, feeling the breath move naturally, noticing the space between thoughts. In that space, a quiet presence emerges, not as an idea but as a felt sense, a deep, calm awareness that feels like coming home. This is the soul's silence, the peace that has never left. It is not something we achieve. It is the natural state we return to when we stop trying to be somewhere else. Now, close your eyes for a moment. Feel the weight of your body resting on the chair or the earth. Notice the rhythm of your breath, not as something to control, but as a gentle flow, Let the thoughts come and go like leaves on a stream. As you soften the tightness of "I must think, I must do," a deeper quiet begins to unfold. Feel it not as absence, but as a presence, a warm, steady calm that holds you. This is the soul's silent presence, always available. It is the quiet beneath the noise, the peace beneath the storm. You do not need to seek it far. It is the very ground of your being, waiting to be recognized. Sit with this feeling for a few breaths. Let the silence of the soul become your natural state, not a special practice, but the way you simply are. As you return to the day, carry this quiet awareness within you. It is not separate from your work, your conversation, or your walk. It is the stillness in the sound, the calm beneath the activity. This silence of the soul is the ultimate expression of Zen. The journey you have walked, step by step, breath by breath, leads not to a distant place, but back to where you always were. The path of seeking, of listening for silence, has brought you to this quiet moment of recognition. You see now that silence was never a destination to be reached, but the very ground beneath your feet, the air you breathe, the space within which all sound and thought arise and pass. The effort to find it, to make it happen, was the shadow that obscured what was already here, clear and present. Consider the garden you walked through yesterday. The rain fell softly, the wind stirred the leaves, birds called briefly, and within this gentle motion, silence remained. It was not the absence of sound, but the stillness that held the sound, the space where the raindrop landed and the bird's call ended. This silence was not created by the rain or the wind. It was the nature of the space itself, the quiet backdrop to all experience. You were walking through it all along, even when you thought you were searching for it outside yourself. The silence you sought was the silence within your own awareness, the unchanging presence that witnessed the rain, the wind, the birds, and your own thoughts. This is the realization that ends the journey. Silence is not something you gain, but something you remember. It is not a state you achieve through practice, but the inherent nature of your being, always present beneath the surface noise of the world and the mind. The practice was never to make silence happen, but to let go of the need to find it, to release the grip of the searching self. When you stop trying to capture the silence, you simply rest in the knowing that it has always been here. It is not something you discover anew, it is the familiar home you return to. The quiet place you have always known, even if you had forgotten it. So take this moment to gently reflect. Close your eyes if you wish, or simply look around. Notice the space between the thoughts in your mind. Feel the quiet beneath the sounds of the room, the hum of the world. Is there a sense of stillness there? Even as things move, this is not an effort to create silence. It is simply noticing what has always been, like recognizing a friend you have known all your life, now seen clearly in the light of understanding. The journey ended not with arrival, but with the quiet recognition that you were never truly lost. The silence was always the ground of your being, the unchanging presence within the changing world. This understanding, this deep remembering of silence as the ever-present nature of reality, is not an endpoint but the very foundation. It naturally leads to living in silence, moving through the world with the quiet awareness that was always here, the stillness that holds all sound, the silence that is the heart of everything. You may have heard silence described as a place to find, a quiet space to enter after the noise of the world fades. But true silence is not a destination. It is not the absence of sound you seek in a mountain cave or the hush of an empty room. It is the ever-present ground of your own being, the deep stillness that remains even as life moves around you. It is the quiet within, the space where the mind settles naturally, not because the world is silent, but because you are no longer chasing after it. This is the home we've always known, deeply familiar, yet often overlooked in the rush of thought. It is not about stopping the world, but about resting within it, aware and unshaken. Living in silence means being fully present, without distraction, in whatever you're doing. It is the inner stillness that allows you to hear the rain on the roof without adding commentary, to see the face of a friend without planning your next words. It is not the absence of activity, but the presence of awareness within activity. Imagine the simple act of washing one bowl. You are not rushing to finish. You feel the water's temperature on your fingers, the smooth curve of the ceramic, the gentle sound of water running. You're not thinking about the next task, the worry waiting outside, or the noise of the world. You are simply here, with the bowl, with the water, with the quiet within, the steam rising, the sound of the tap, the movement of your hands all become part of the stillness, not its opposite. This is not about forcing silence. It is about releasing the need to be elsewhere, to be doing something more important. It is about bringing your whole attention to this single moment, this single action, as if it were the only thing that mattered. This is the practice. Choose one ordinary activity you already do, the way you brush your teeth, walk to the mailbox, stir your tea. Do it with the intention of being fully present, not to achieve calm, but to notice the calm that is already there. Feel the brush against your teeth, the cool air on your skin as you walk, the steam rising from the cup. Let your attention rest in the sensation, the movement, the sound itself. When thoughts arise about yesterday, tomorrow, what you need to do next, gently return to the feeling of your feet on the floor, the rhythm of your breath, the simple act of being here now. No judgment, just a soft return. This is not a technique to master. It is a remembering, a rediscovery of the stillness that has always been your nature. It is the water flowing, not the river trying to stop flowing. In this practice, you begin to see that silence is not something you create. It is the space that opens when the mind stops grasping. It is the natural state of the mind when it is not caught up in the story. The busyness of the world continues, but your center remains steady, like a deep lake reflecting the sky without disturbance. You move through the day not as a person trying to find peace, but as peace itself, flowing through action. The sound of the wind, the chatter of a colleague, the clatter of dishes all become part of the silence, not its interruption. You are not separate from the world, you are the stillness within it, aware and alive. This living in silence is the natural state of the enlightened mind. It is not something earned after years of effort, but the recognition that you have always been this stillness, this awareness, even in the midst of movement. When you wash the bowl with full attention, you are not practicing silence, you are simply being the silence that has always been. The journey of seeking ends here, in the quiet of the present moment, where silence is not the beginning or the end, but the ever-present ground of all that is. This is how silence becomes your living breath. The silence we seek is not a distant shore we must row toward. It is the very ground beneath your feet, the air you breathe, the space between thoughts that has always been present. This is the natural state of the enlightened mind, not something we build or earn. It is simply the recognition of what has been here all along, clear and undisturbed as the deep stillness of a mountain lake reflecting the sky. When we think we must reach for silence, we create a gap between ourselves and the peace that is already our nature. The mind that is free is not striving, it is quietly aware, seeing the world with a clarity that arises from within, not from outside effort. This is not a special state reserved for rare moments of meditation, but the ordinary awareness that flows through every breath, every step, every ordinary moment of life. Imagine standing in the rain, feeling the cool drops on your skin, hearing the gentle patter on the leaves. You're not trying to make the rain stop or the sound quiet. You simply are, aware of the rain and the quiet within you that holds it all without resistance. The sound of the rain is part of the landscape of your awareness, yet the awareness itself remains still, clear, and untouched by the falling drops. This is the silence of the enlightened mind in action. It is not the absence of rain or sound, but the presence of a deep, inner stillness that allows all sounds to be heard without disturbing the clarity of the mind itself. It is the recognition that the mind's nature is already silent, clear, and whole, regardless of the weather outside or the storm within. So when the noise of the world rises, when frustration arises, or worry whispers, or the mind feels scattered, do not seek to push the disturbance away. Instead, Gently turn your attention inward. Feel the space within you where the disturbance appears. Remember that this space is always there, vast and undisturbed. The very ground of your being. It is not a place you go to, it is where you already are, beneath the surface of thought. When the wind of disturbance blows, simply notice the calm that holds it. Say to yourself softly, as if speaking to a dear friend, "This feeling is passing, but the silence within remains." This is not about forcing calm, but about recognizing the stillness that was never lost. It is the quiet knowing that you are already whole, already at peace, in the very moment of disturbance. This simple act of remembering the silence within is not a technique to master. It is a gentle turning back to what you already are. Each time you pause and recognize this inherent stillness, you step more fully into the reality of your true nature. You move through the world not as a separate self, chasing peace, but as the peace itself, flowing with the rhythm of life. The disturbance may come and go, but the awareness that holds it remains constant, clear, and unshaken. This is the natural silence of the enlightened mind, not a state to be achieved, but the ever-present recognition of the peace that is your deepest reality. This silence is the eternal silence we return to. Close your eyes for a moment. Hear the soft rhythm of your breath, the gentle hum of the world around you, the quiet space between thoughts. This is not the absence of sound you seek, but the deep, unchanging presence already here. Silence is not something to be found at the end of a long search, nor a quiet room you enter. It is the eternal ground of all being, the stillness that holds the sound of the wind in the trees, the movement of your own heart, the flow of your thoughts. It is not bound by time, for it was here before the first thought arose, and it will remain when all thoughts have faded. It is not bound by space, for it is the very nature of this moment, this breath, this awareness, wherever you are. We are always within this eternal silence, even when we are lost in the noise of life, even when we forget its presence completely. It is not a state we achieve, it is the very substance of our existence, the unchanging backdrop to all change. Consider the old Zen master walking through the forest. He hears the birdsong, the rustle of leaves, the distant sound of a stream. He is not seeking silence away from these sounds. He is simply aware, completely present. The birds sing, the leaves fall, the stream flows, all within the boundless silence that holds them all. He does not need to stop the world to find peace. He simply rests in the awareness that the world is already happening within the silence. This is not a special moment reserved for the meditation cushion. It is the natural state of being, the ground beneath the surface of all experience. When we are busy with worry or joy, we may forget this silence, but it never leaves us. It is the silence beneath the noise of the marketplace, the silence within the heart of the storm, the silence that remains when the last thought has dissolved. So close your eyes now, just for a few moments. Settle your body gently. Feel the support beneath you, the air around you. Notice the rhythm of your breath, the subtle movement in your body. Do not try to make the mind quiet. Simply rest your attention in the space between thoughts, in the feeling of simply being here. Feel the deep, quiet presence that is always with you, even as thoughts arise and pass. It is not a place you go to. It is the very feeling of being aware, the silent witness to everything. This is not effort, it is recognition. You are already in the eternal silence, always. It is not something you must create. It is the ground of your being, the unchanging reality beneath the ever-changing surface of life. This quiet presence is not separate from the sound of the birds or the warmth of the sun. It is the silence that contains them all. Feel this presence now, as you sit in the quiet. It is not something you hold on to. It is the simple, warm awareness that is already here, right now. This is not a practice of forcing silence, but a gentle turning towards what is already true. It is the recognition that the silence you seek is the silence you are. The eternal silence is not a destination beyond the present moment. It is the very nature of the present moment itself. This eternal silence is the beginning and end of all Zen.